You know, I'm a Catholic. I was born a Catholic, and 85% of the Filipino people are Christians, as you know that. But we never really read the Bible as Catholics. I don't know why. And we were instinctively Catholic. We believed in God. But as a young man, I had no time for God. I was too busy with my politics. I was moving on, and I thought I was self-contained. I thought, on my own steam, I can make it. I only went to God when I needed His help. When the votes were coming in, and I'd say, "Dear Lord, help me." But when the votes are in, I forget the Lord. But when I was placed in deep solitary confinement, nobody to talk to, I became desperate. And here I started to question the fundamentals of my belief. Firstly, is there really a God? I began to doubt that. I said, if there is a God, why should I be here? What have I done? Why are the crooks all out? And so I asked the second question, was there a God when the children were gassed at Auschwitz, at Buchenwald, at Dachau? Where was He? Where is this God? And people are dying in the Sahel. And that assailed my mind. But then I felt, there must be a God, because then all of this suffering will be useless. I mean, if I'm suffering like this and there's no God, who will ever reward me? Who will ever pay me back? So there must be a God. So I felt then, maybe it's a false consolation. I had to even invent Him if there is no God, because that's the only way you can survive. Without Him, Pat, you'll never make it. And as St. Paul said, I'm strongest when I was weakest. And I became strongest when I was down there on the floor, in solitary confinement, alone. And it's only when He came to me that I really felt strongest. And therefore now, I have survived all of my vicissitudes because I know that there's this God interceding for us.
I understand that you had Thomas Kempis'
Yes,
Invitation
I had
of
the Invitation of Christ, but the book that really encouraged me to go into the deeper thinking is Chuck Colson's Born Again. You know, I read this book and I said, oh, this guy is just a phony, it's a gimmick. He was a Nixon man and he wants to use this, to win the good graces of people. And I read this, but the more I read it, and I saw it there, he said, if you sit down with the yellow paper and write down your blessings as against your heartaches and frustrations, you will always know that you're always ahead. But the tragedy with us human beings, we only remember God on the negative way. We know Him when we're suffering. But what about the daily gifts that He gives us? The family, the children, the food, employment. We don't count that. So it was Chuck Colson who opened up my mind to this. And then I saw him in your program. So I started reading. So one day I was flying from Boston to Washington. And here's this man sitting down beside me in the plane, and I looked over and I said, "Excuse me, are you Mr. Colson?" He said, "Yes." "How did you know me?" I said, "I saw you in 700 Club and I read your book. And your book helped me." And we started talking, you see. And it was this man who showed me the way, and I told him I must apologize. I said, because when I first read your book, I thought you were a phony and you're a gimmick. But now that you're in your prison fellowship, really dedicating yourself to the Lord, I said, that's the greatest thing. And I said, "Chuck, I want to make a confession too. God gave me a gift," I said, "a gift to articulate that brought me to the pinnacle of political power. I promised him in prison," I said, "that if and when I regain my freedom, I'd like to use this gift now to witness for him." And look, I'm here, Pat. I mean, a year ago, who would ever believe that I would be sitting down with you? I was watching, I was in solitary confinement at the death sentence. Now I'm here with you. And this is a miracle. I mean, it's one of those things.
And the suffering did something, though. The suffering opened your understanding of God that you never would have had.
Well, Pat, suffering can do two ways. It can break you or make you. In my particular instance, I welcomed it as an opportunity. With this suffering, I knew that God cared for me. Because if He didn't care for me, He won't make me suffer. But I knew that when He gave me this suffering in solitary confinement, away from my children, they would come in the afternoon and visit me once a week. And when they left, my heart would be broken. But it's only then that I really realized the value of my children. God had to take them away for me to realize that value. So I think the message is, welcome your suffering, because God will never give you a suffering that will break you. It's only a manifestation of His love, I think, that He makes us suffer to really realize it. Because when we are in glory, we don't know Him. But when we suffer, we remember Him. So I think that's the message.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Mike Arrieta. Isa po akong sa mga supporters po ni Senator Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. 6 days from now, we will be celebrating ang kanyang 37th death anniversary on August 21. Ito rin ay isang national holiday sa August 21, Ninoy Aquino Day. Pero alam po natin na it's been 37 years na po, mga kapatid, na hindi pa rin nare-resolve hanggang ngayon yung kung sino ba ang pumatay kay Ninoy at sino ang may kagagawan po nito. We charge it already to history. Years ago, we know that Ninoy's death has started people power. This is where the birth of democracy began. It took one man to shed his blood to tell the whole world that a man's life is sacred, is also important. You know, my dear friends, kahit na hindi tayo mag-agree lahat sa adhikain ni Ninoy, ako po ay naniniwala din sa adhikain ni Ninoy sapagkat si Ninoy po nung siya ay nabilanggo sa Fort Bonifacio for more than 7 years, I believe na malaki din ang kanyang pinagbago rin. Kinalimutan niya ang kanyang political ambitions na bago sana mag-martial law, nais po niya maging Pangulo din ng Pilipinas, pero hindi po naibigay sa kanya. Alam po natin may paraan ang Panginoon, may purpose ang Diyos sa nangyaring ito. It's been 37 years now, we do not know what happened. And it's still, I know some of us are just too young we're too young to remember. We were not even born when this tragedy happened at the airport, at the Manila International Airport. And we know that this man, kasi nung si Ninoy, noong elementary ako, parang familiar na siya sa akin noon pa. Parang ang pagkakilala lang po natin kay Ninoy ay political rival ni President Marcos. But I got to know who Ninoy was when binasa ko ang kanyang biography. Na itong taong to ay may prinsipyo rin pala. Siya rin po ay icon of democracy. Ngayon, 2020 na po, 37 years na. Bigyan lang ng senaryo, paano kaya kung si Ninoy ay buhay pa kayong panahon ng pandemya? Maaring gawin ni Ninoy. I am sure na Ninoy would take action for everything should this coronavirus happen if he were alive in this time. Tayo rin mga Pilipino, maaari din meron tayong makuha din kay Ninoy. Maaari din tayong pwedeng magbaguhin ng Diyos. Pwede rin tayong lumaban ng hindi gumagamit ng dahas. In other words, we do not use violence to combat evil. Because Jesus has taught us about loving our enemies as well. And I think Ninoy followed that principle that our Lord has taught him. Imprisonment and solitary confinement ang talagang nakapagpabago kay Ninoy. Talagang tuloy ang nagbago na rin si Ninoy sapagkat naniniwala po ako mga kapatid na God draws straight lines sa isang crooked way. We all know that before martial law, Ninoy was a politician. Ambitious, sabihin natin. Aminin na natin, ambisyoso yan noon pa. He was really a young man in a hurry because he knew in his heart that he would not live long. Meron pa nga sinabi si Ninoy nung katapos ng kanyang heart bypass in 1980. May sinabi niya, I am 47 and I will soon be 50 and I have a few years to live after that. That was something really prophetic. Nung minsan nga napanood ko ang kanyang speech sa Los Angeles sa YouTube din, nung sinabi niya kay President Marcos, I will dedicate the last drop of my blood for the restoration of freedom and the dismantlement of your martial law. This was really prophetic. It happened 2 years later in 1983. So my dear friends, mga supporters po ni Ninoy, as we remember him this coming Friday on a holiday, let's just not think of Ninoy as another national holiday to celebrate. Let us not just remember the 500 peso bill. Let's not just remember the airport that is there in Parañaque. But we remember a man whose legacy is to restore freedom and democracy in our land. Kung hindi nga dahil kay Ninoy, wala itong demokrasya sa ating bayan ngayon. At ang paniniwala ko mga kapatid, ang prinsipyo po ni Ninoy na sabi nga, pag tayo ay lalaban, pag tayo ay gusto natin labanan yung kabutihan laban sa kasamaan, ay hindi dapat sa dahas, kundi we do it through peaceful means, just like what Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King did. Sa totoo lang po, mga idolo po ni Ninoy Aquino yan. So mga kapatid, I hope that all of you had a wonderful day, and please stay safe and remember Ninoy and his advocacy and his fight for freedom. And let's remember what he said. Indeed, the Filipino is worth dying for.